Hi, everybody. Pastor Tim here at Calvary Church here in Pueblo, Colorado. And this is the message recap, rewind, and bonus features from the message we had on Sunday, August 8th. And that message was out of the book of Judges, chapter 20. Now, we saw that Judges 19, 20, and 21 are all one big story in three different parts. And so chapter 19 was about the sin of the Benjamites, and chapter 20 is the response of Israel to the tribe of Benjamin. And that response was like two or threefold. There were a few things happening. One, once the sin got out on what the tribe of Benjamin did to the Levite's wife, there was outrage. So 400,000 warriors gathered together against the tribe of Benjamin, and they did a few things. One of the things they did, first and foremost, was they went to God. And Scripture tells us they inquired of God as one man, meaning they had unity in that conviction, and they went to God for direction, and God gave them direction. And several times they went to God and fasted and prayed and sacrificed. And so the Israelites knew that this was a spiritual matter first and foremost, not just a military matter or a matter of morality or sin or judgment or exacting punishment. This was a spiritual matter. So Israel did the right thing when they saw the sin of their brothers. They went to God first. And I imagine they beseeched God with prayers of, hey, if there is something inside of me, convict me of that sin, let's forgive it, let's get right between you and I as we address the sin of our brother. After that, they also sent, a delegation to the tribe of Benjamin saying, hey, the men who committed this atrocity, this rape, this murder, this horrendous act, bring them over to us, surrender them to us that we might punish them. And of course, the penalty for that would be capital punishment, death. And the Benjamites had an opportunity at that moment to do what was right in front of God's eyes. But it is the book of Judges. And the book of Judges tells us that everyone did right in their own eyes. They disregarded God. They disregarded what was true and noble and righteous and holy. And they stuck to their guns, dug their heels in, and refused, one, to admit that there was any sin at all taking place, and secondly, refusing to hold those accountable to their crimes and punishments. So Benjamin surrounded themselves. They had some mighty warriors as well. And so Israel and the tribe of Benjamin went to war. The first battle, the Benjamites won. The second battle, the Benjamites won. And the third time, Israel again went before the Lord with fasting and prayer and worship. And God said, indeed, this time I will give them into your hands. Let the tribe of Judah lead, and you will have victory. And so they changed up their method of warfare and drew the Benjamites out away from the cities. And when the Benjamites thought that, hey, they routed Israel again, Israel surrounded them, destroyed them, and somewhere around 95% of their warriors were killed, and all the cities, all the livestock were burned and judged and destroyed. And we looked at how to apply that from the book of Ephesians, chapter 5, which is worthy of you reading. But we also mentioned at the very end, and didn't have a lot of time to communicate this, how do we respond when we see sin in others? Because that's kind of what's happening in Judges 19, 20, and 21. The sins of the Benjamites are on full display. How do we respond to that? How do we react to that? And I think God gives us, I know God gives us very clear guidelines and tools in place on how to live holy ourselves in response to seeing sin in others. And one of the ways we see that is out of Matthew chapter 18. We talked about it briefly, but in depth here, bonus features to the message. We see that in Matthew 18, we have clear instructions that if a brother sins against you, so if you have a relationship with someone and sin now is present, they lie to you, they swear at you, they steal from you, they gossip about you, in some way there's deception and somehow sin happens. how are you supposed to respond to that? And in Matthew 18, Jesus gives us very clear instructions, starting in verse 15 through verse 19, that there are 3 steps and processes that you put into place. The first step is that when you see that sin in someone else and they've sinned against you, you yourself, you alone, you all by yourself, you go to that person and you confront them. Obviously speaking the truth in love. It's not an argument that you're having, but you relay to that individual one-on-one that sin has occurred and that you need restoration of fellowship and that they need to confess their sin to God and to yourself so that there can be forgiveness and a unity again in that relationship. He's very clear. You go one-on-one. And our temptation as the one who's been sinned against is to go tell a whole bunch of other people and other people telling you, yeah, you're right, that was wrong, you're wrong. And you want that bolstered community of people around you patting you on the back going, yeah, you were wrong, you were wrong, you were wronged. When in essence, we're supposed to simply go to that person one-on-one. If that person hears you and there is confession, there's a restoration of fellowship, and you never have to mention that again, especially to anyone else. Never mention it to anyone else. But if they don't listen, and this is kind of what the Israelites did, they sent a dignitary, you take someone else with you. And the 3 of you try to reason together about the situation. Maybe you've read it wrong, maybe they've read it wrong, maybe more biblical counsel and advice is what needs to happen in that situation. And if they confess their sin and you restore yourself, then it never has to be told to another person again. So only 3 people know about it. If that doesn't bring restoration, Jesus says, then you take it to the church. And his meaning there is to the leadership, to the elders. And so the church leadership, the pastors and the elders all get together and try to resolve this conflict, this sin, and see if that might restore a relationship between the person and God and the person and you and that person. And if that does not work, if that does not restore it, then they are to be put out of fellowship of the church, that they have rejected the counsel of one-on-one, of two-on-one, and the entire church body. And at that point, God says that the sin can be exposed. And so there are very practical steps, and we have to start with the first step. We can't go to the last step and tell everybody about it. We have to go to the first step, and if someone sinned against us, we go to that person one-on-one. I'm telling you, that is super, super hard to do because we like to get people in our favor and on our side, and we don't want to go talk to the person one-on-one. But that is our calling. That is what makes us holy living that Paul talks about in Ephesians 5. And that is the step and process that at least the Israelites strived for in wanting a peaceful solution before all-out war, kicking them out of the fellowship of God's people. So I encourage you to watch the entire message. I know it was a little bit long because it was 48 verses we had to get through on Sunday, but this coming Sunday we wrap it up in Judges chapter 21 and we move on to a new series. So I hope that you're able to join us in person here at Calvary in Pueblo, and if not, of course, catch us online. Until then, God bless and bye.